Welcome to the Primitive Republic Podcast, where we talk about the most primitive aspects of man to live off the land, hunt, and sustain oneself. At the core of our humanity, there are things that drive us. A sense to turn back the clock, to get away from modern life, and search for something primitive. Every week we talk to like-minded individuals that are looking to connect and create a community of people, a republic. Now your host, Aaron Schmaus.
I'm here with Carrie Zylka, and you are a very busy woman.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly.
Yeah, so I did background check light, just trying to get a feel for you and stuff like that, see what all, kinds of stuff that you're into and stuff. And holy cow. I mean,
I know.
You've got the Bowcast Podcast, the Metal Chicks?
Yeah, the Metal Chick Podcast.
Yeah, Hunt, Fish, Travel. What is it? A Creative Mind Fiction. What is that, by the way? Because you wrote a book too, right? Or a Kindle.
I have it's a collection of short stories there. I'm working on my big book. I don't know. I'm on the third book in the series, and I don't know. Someday I'll actually probably get around to either self-publishing it or getting an agent or something. I don't know. It keeps me busy. I have no kids.
Oh, well, that helps too, yeah.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, you said you had like 24 episodes or something like that to edit, and if you want some more, I can toss some your way and you can edit mine.
I know. The fiction podcast is the easiest one. It's my co-host, Alice Nelson, who's amazing, and we co-moderate a flash fiction writing contest every other week. We post a new prompt, and then, I don't know, everybody votes and whatever. I don't know, 4 years ago-ish, we were like, hey, I have like 200 stories written. They're just short stories. They're less than 1,200 words. And she was like, me too. I'm like, we should do a podcast because I need another one, apparently. So she was like, okay. So every other week we trade off. I'll post my story. She'll post her story at opposite weeks, and it works out really nice because then you're not always creating, an episode every week. It's not all on you. And I do something with these stories that I've been working on for years and years. And like I said, they're short. They're 5 to 10 minute audio clips, and they're easily digestible. They're all different genres. I'm more of the fantasy fiction, science fiction. She's more of the thriller and drama, so it works really well.
So fantasy fiction, like 50 Shades of Grey kind of thing, or like children's fantasy?
Big negative. No, more like Lord of the Rings stuff. Like Brian.
Well, I'm just trying to put it together. You got metal chick podcast, and then you've got fan fiction kind of thing. So more like Dungeons and Dragons type stories, wizards and dragons, and chicks who kick ass with swords and stuff. So Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah. The metal one, I think, I don't know. I keep trying to retire it, but maybe someday I will. Every time I go to retire one of my podcasts, I'm like, I just don't have time to keep up with it. I'm like, maybe I should interview this really cool person, and then I get sucked back in.
So what kind of metal? Because I didn't get a whole lot of time to really look all through that kind of stuff, because I love rock and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So even though it's the Metal Chick podcast, I interview a lot of local musicians in the southeastern Wisconsin area, as well as international musicians. A lot of rock, blues, heavy metal, power metal, European power metal I'm really big into. But a lot of rock bands, and they all just have really interesting stories, and how they even got into music, or some of these people, they're like classically trained. They have so much training and education and craziness, or how they met their husbands or wives or whatever. They always have really good backstage stories. So
yeah, I did So I was into golf there for a while. My grandpa was a golf pro. My uncle was a golf pro and stuff like that. So I got out of the military, and one of my buddies, he was an assistant golf pro at one of the places that I used to play, and he goes, "Hey, do you want to do a security gig?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I got to do security for Tommy Thayer, Jack Blade, from Damn Yankees. Al Paris was there.
That's cool.
Danny Sullivan was there. And so I'm standing outside their RV and stuff like that. And Tommy Thayer leans out and he's like, "Hey, I need you to get me a bottle of Goldschlager, a bottle of Jaeger, a bottle of Jack, I think it was, and then 7 glasses." No, get 8 glasses. And I'm like, okay. So I tell one of the other runners or whatever, I'm like, "Hey, this is what he needs." So the guy comes back and I go inside and I go to give it to him. He's like, "What's your poison?" And I was like, "I can't drink. I'm on the clock,
Right.
And he's like, No, you can't get off that easy." He's like, you gotta drink. And I'm like, "No, this is like all time coolest fucking thing ever, but I can't." And he's like, "Oh, come on, man." And I'm like, "All right, I like Jaeger." So I got in there and I was able to do some shots with those guys, which is really, really cool.
Awesome.
They actually, Al Paris gave me his cell phone number there for a while, and I'd hit Al back and forth and stuff, and
Nice.
but ended up losing his number and all that kind of stuff over time. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Those guys were really awesome.
That's awesome. See, you meet such cool people podcasting, and you just never know. There's so many cool people out there, and when it comes to the rock and roll world, these guys have the best stories, and I don't know, I love it.
Oh, I'll bet they live like 1,000 lifetimes too.
Right.
But so let's get your background. You said you were former Navy.
Yes.
How did you get into the outdoor industry?
Oh, it was a total accident. And so the Bowcast Podcast was the very first archery and bow hunting podcast, like in the late, I don't know, I forget when it was, 2007, 2009, something in there. I was listening to the Up North Journal podcast, and they didn't really go into a lot of archery and bow hunting stuff. And I don't know, I think I emailed them or something, and I was like, "Look, I'm tired of being a gun hunter and freezing my ass off in November in Wisconsin. I'd like to get into bow hunting." At that time, there wasn't the amount of resources that there are now online. And I was like, I was really into podcasts, and I was like, "Do you know of any resources that I could, hit up and really learn the craft?" And he was like, "Oh, you got to check out this podcast called Bowcast. They're awesome." And I was like, "All right." So I probably binged their first, I don't know how many episodes, and I was like, "Oh my God, these guys really know their stuff. Really know their stuff." Anthony Dixon and Anil Roney were just like the smartest guys I think I'd ever listened to. And so I listened to them for a while, and then the Deer and Turkey Expo was coming up, and I wanted to wear a Bowcast t-shirt. So I went on to their shop, and all they had was hoodies. And I sent them like the snottiest, like bitchiest email about how, like, seriously, how do you not have t-shirts, blah, 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 blah. All you have are these hoodies. I'll get some, in Wisconsin, I'll die of heat exhaustion if I buy one of these, but I really want to promote you. This sucks. Like, it was really snotty. I felt so dumb now looking back on it. But Anil, he emailed me back and he's like, we should chat. We should chat. And he asked me if I wanted to start blogging for them, kind of just detailing my transition from a rifle hunter into a bow hunter. And I was floored and flattered. I was, already big into writing with the stories and stuff anyway. And I was like, sure, let's do it. So that for many years I blogged for them and participated in the Bowcast at the Bird event, which is now the Total Archery Challenge. And then the company kind of went through some transitional changes. They changed hosts, podcast hosts and stuff. And I decided to just kind of do my own thing after a while. Anil stepped away and I started the Hunt Fish Travel podcast. So fast forward all these years, almost 10 years later, you're going through several different hosts. Tim Ensley had purchased the Bowcast podcast and the logos and the rights to all the content. and he wasn't doing anything with it. And I was like, dude, I've been trying to buy this show for like 5 years. I was like, just sell me the damn show. And he's like, well, why don't we do a co-host thing? And I was like, that's cool. Totally fine. So I bought in. And then he was just really busy. He does a lot of filming and video stuff, and he's just really busy all of the time. We just couldn't sync up our schedules. Finally, I was like, dude, just sell it to me. Let me run with it. And he was like, here's what I want. I wrote him a check, and I relaunched it this year. So talk about coming full circle. It's crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's actually the podcast that Dan McElendon had actually told me about. He's like, oh, you got to check out this podcast. And I was like, all right, cool. Whenever I get a chance in my abundant free time. And so he's like, oh yeah, you got to hit up Carrie. And then, so I looked you up on Facebook or whatever. And I was like, holy shit, we've got so many of the same, like, co-conspirators that is like, it's nuts. Like Jen Jacques, she's awesome, super cool chick.
I know.
And so I was like, that's pretty cool. And then Dan was like, oh, you got to reach out to her. You got to reach out to her. You got to reach out to her. And I'm like, all right.
Isn't he great?
He is. He's a good guy. I had him on my podcast, and pretty cool guy. He's been really good supporter. But yeah, so your Bowcast podcast is pretty cool. And I was listening to an episode of the Hunt, Fish, Travel podcast. And I got to be honest, I felt like I was in an episode of That 70s Show.
Okay.
Like, all I hear is the Wisconsin accent. And it's like back and forth. And I was like, man.
It must have been when I had Rachel as the co-host. Was that one of the ones? Because her and I would get together. Oh my God. It's so funny. Yeah, because she's got even a heavier accent than I do. That's super funny.
Oh, it was a good podcast, but I started laughing because I was like, man, Kelso's just gonna walk through the door and be like guest appearance or whatever. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So with your transition from rifle hunting to bow hunting and stuff like that, what has been the hardest thing for you to like grasp?
I don't know, because I feel like the transition was actually pretty easy. And literally I attribute that to the original Bowcast episodes. They had such wonderful walkthrough tutorials. I didn't really need like to go to a range and hire an archery coach because I had these two guys in my ear telling me and talking me through it. I think the hardest thing for me to really pick up was, I don't know, probably the whole leveling thing. I still, to this day, I always have to check my level because I'm always canting to the right for some reason. I don't know, my right leg's probably shorter than my left or something. And I think just centering and being calm and leveling and checking, without just shooting it off has probably been the biggest challenge, especially in the beginning, because you just want to shoot. I don't know if that really answers your question or not.
No, it definitely is, because I've actually struggled with that myself. And so what I did was I actually got a bee stinger with the side weight and stuff like that to help balance me out.
Nice.
So when I draw and everything, it's stays a lot more steady. When really that was probably a Band-Aid. I probably should have just like struggled through it and forced myself to start correcting myself. But but now even still I hunt with that thing. Like I'll carry it on my backcountry hunts and stuff like that, and I don't know, I get a lot of flack from it, but they're like, why would you carry all that extra weight? And I'm like, dude, it's like not even a half pound. I mean, really.
Yeah, like, because I really want to kill something, and
yeah,
if it helps, it helps. Hey.
Yeah, I would rather not wound it.
You know, call me crazy.
So have you had a chance to hunt out west other than like Kansas? I saw that you were in Kansas, but
Yeah. Yes. Mia Anstein and I, well, she invited me out to go Colorado elk hunting with them 2 years ago, I think it was, which was probably one of the coolest hunts I've ever been on. She and her husband, we went up into the mountains, took the horses up there and camped up there for the whole week. And it was really, really, really cool. They're such good people to begin with. And they were so generous in inviting me out there. And I don't know, just hunting, you know, taking the horses up into the mountains and stuff and then seeing the mountain goats. And we did not, I think I was just a little too early, like a week or two, just too early. And they weren't in the rut or anything. And it was hard to find them. But my biggest concern was, I mean, I live in Wisconsin. We're like, you know, 4 feet above sea level. And she's like, yeah, we're going up to like, well, they live at like 6,500. And they're like, oh, we're going to go to 10 or 11,000. I'm like, I'm going to die. But I didn't. I was very proud of myself. You know, because, I mean, it's such a different environment than the lower lands here in Wisconsin, where your ears pop when you go 600 feet above sea level.
yeah.
I mean, so. But.
Yeah, my brother actually just came up to visit, and he was saying the same thing. He's like, oh, man, I got to get used to this air. And he's like, I'm like, dude, we grew up in the same place. You telling me you didn't know? He's like, oh, you know, I've been in California and I've been in South Carolina.
Yeah.
He's like, this sucks. I can't breathe.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So what's on your agenda? What do you plan on? What are going to be your big future plans for hunting?
This year, I think well, because of COVID and everything, we're staying local. Every year I hunt out of state, usually South Dakota, because I love Dakota, or Kansas. Nebraska was going to be on this year's list, but with everything going on, I'm just going to kind of stay close to home. And then next spring, go somewhere for turkey hunting. I tend to turkey hunt out of state more than anything because it's a lot less expensive. And you have all of the public land to yourself. Oh, it's a piece of cake. You can go for like $100 for a tag, compared to $750 in Colorado for a non-resident elk tag. Like $190, you can get 2 turkeys in the Dakotas or whatever, you know, or Kansas, or you know, so it's a lot less expensive.
Yeah, when you said a lot more expensive or a lot less expensive, I was like, wait a minute. So is it really expensive to hunt turkeys in Wisconsin? I was like, holy cow.
No, I meant it's just less expensive. You know, when you add in travel costs and then you add a non-resident tag and stuff, well, you can get up in the thousands really quickly. So.
Oh yeah.
Turkey hunting.
Yeah. Oh shoot, Montana, I think is if it's not the highest, I know it's one of the highest price states to hunt in. And I think an elk tag is like almost $800, something like that.
It's crazy.
You know? Yeah. Oh, it's nuts, but it doesn't seem to diminish our non-resident tags from selling out. So.
Really?
Oh yeah, we're like sold out every year. It seems like.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well. It's awesome, but then you've got, you know, we're trying to put out and really help people get into hunting and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, it comes with its disadvantages because you teach people how to hunt and then they know how to hunt and then they start taking your spots and makes it that much harder. So you've got to be better. And, you know, so, you know, it's got its goods and bads. You know, it's great that we're pushing hunting and, you know, getting it out there and stuff. So, you know, so what kinds of things are you working on? Like other than the podcasts and the blogs and the, you know, all that kind of stuff. And,
you know, that's really it. I do photography on the side. I have my day job, but podcasting is really my biggest passion. It's almost an obsession for me. And I really, between the 4 shows, it keeps me very busy. And then come fall, was trying to get caught up. So we bought this little boat, and I've been kind of obsessed with it. It's like this little 1971 tri-hull. It's super cute, and we're just having a blast with it. And so I've been kind of slacking lately. I've been spending like 4, 5, 6 days a week out on the water. So, which is why I'm like 24 episodes behind. But, and then come fall, there's only so many hours in the day to hunt. And I spend as much time as I possibly can. Plus, my boyfriend's in a band, so he, you know, juggling everything. And of course, holidays come in there and everything. So this fall, I'm staying close to home, just hunting locally. And then, of course, the conferences start up in January. Unfortunately, I was super excited about the Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Writers Conference this year. It was in Gaylord, Michigan. They were going to do grouse hunting and stuff, which I've never been before, so I was excited about that. But of course, COVID put the kibosh on that. Super fun.
Yeah. Yeah, they did the same thing for us. Well, they did. It did the same thing for us with the Professional Outdoor Media Association.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you guys were all virtual, weren't you? Like, the whole thing was so fidgety. This chair is so uncomfortable. I saw that it was pretty much all online, huh?
Yeah, I didn't end up doing it because I ended up having to work, and I have ADD really bad. So if I don't have an intermission and stuff like that, like, it's really hard for me to just kind of sit in front of the computer.
Yeah.
So I didn't do the virtual one. Plus, to me, like, a lot of those conferences are really about the networking.
Totally.
You meet so many really cool people. And so I was like, well, you know, I'll just get it for next year. And apparently we've got 2 that we're going to be doing this year. Apparently the one that was in Nashville is going to be this year, like early February, something like that. And then they're going to do the one in Kalispell, which was supposed to be this year. So, or right. I'm sorry, was supposed to be next year. So,
yeah. It is. I was like about in tears when I saw that it had been postponed. And I happened to be fishing with my boyfriend and my dad, and they're like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I don't think you understand. This is like the one time a year I get to see my friends." You know, seriously, I was so upset. And they were like, "It's so weird." I'm like, I have so many great people that I've met through these writing organizations and these media outlets, and they are like more friends than any of these local people. And I get to see them once a year. And now, unfortunately, I don't even get to do that. So,
yeah. So, do you do any of the expos or anything like that?
Not so much. SHOT Show and ATA, Archery Trade Association, I try to go to. ATA every single year. SHOT Show every couple of years I go to. Other than that, there's only so many vacation days that the company gives you. So,
yeah.
You gotta pick and choose.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I've never been to ATA, and I really want to do it. And one of these days I will. But, you know, I got so many expos and stuff that I've been doing, like with 6 a.m. Outdoor Gear last year. And then, so I was at the Western Hunt Expo for Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, just doing all kinds of stuff with all these different expos. It's really hard to make them all. I'd love to have I've got a friend, her name's Allie Spica. She, it's like all her and her boyfriend do is like go around to these shows and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I'm like, man, I hate you. You're like,
it's exhausting though. It's exhausting. So before it was Hunt Fish Travel, the first 3 years was called The Wild World of Carrie Z, which was a name that a coworker came up with. These 2 girls, totally non-hunters. When I said I was going to start my own podcast about the outdoors, and they were like, "Oh, you should call it The Wild World of Carrie Z." I'm like, "That's super cute. I'm totally going to call it that." But to get, you know, you, especially in the beginning of any sort of media show, whether it's a podcast, vidcast, YouTube channel, TV show, whatever it is, you have to hit the ground running. And I was doing all the local Midwest shows. Like, I spent 10 days, I hosted the Ladies Lodge at the Milwaukee Journal Sports Show and all this stuff. And you can keep that lifestyle. It is so exhausting. Either you're cut out for it or you're not. I am not.
Yeah, I've noticed it's really hard to get it going. Like if you start it from the ground up, holy cow, it seems to really take a while before you start getting traction.
For sure. You really have to hit the ground running and hustle, and it is. And it's funny, even just for like a little podcast, it's an 80-hour-a-week job for the first year to really get those numbers up to where sponsors are like, of course we're going to write you money. Here, take our money. You really have to hustle.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at right now, where it's like, man, I'm completely the podcast is completely unsponsored right now. And, so I do it just because I enjoy doing it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it gets to that point where it's like, it'd be nice to have a little bit of something coming in,
Yeah.
So what do you recommend for that kind of thing? Like, how do you recommend getting a podcast going? You've obviously got a few of them. You got a little bit of experience, so.
I do. I've also helped launch several very successful ones who, some of them in other genres even, that have gone on to start their own TV shows and stuff, which is pretty cool. It's just like any other entrepreneurial job. You are accountant, salesman, media marketing, everything. You're everything, and you really have to treat it like a job. And there's nothing wrong with, 1,000 downloads an episode or whatever. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, especially in your first year or two. Those are solid numbers. Most podcasts don't even get more than like 250 downloads per episode in the first week. Do you listen to Libsyn's The Feed podcast?
I haven't, no.
They are a wealth of information, and they give you, every week, they give you what the median downloads are. Like, so if you're listening to, or if you're getting, 300 downloads, when you post your episode in the first 7 days, you're like right in that median. Anybody who's getting more than that's doing really well. I think the outdoor industry, generally, most of us are doing a lot more than that. But I think people get so hung up on the numbers. Like, there's nothing wrong with having, say, 500 downloads for the month on a particular episode. If you're doing it for fun and you're just doing it because you want to make a couple $1,000s a year to cover your gear costs or whatever it is. But if you want the tens of thousands of downloads per episode, you got to hustle. You got to hustle like you're a used car salesman. And that is no joke, because the market is so saturated. And there's a million other hunting podcasts out there, all with their hands out, so you just got to stand out. You got to be better than them. Your audio's got to be better. Your content's got to be better. And you got to have the numbers, and you got to be able to show that you have the numbers, not these people who are like, oh, I totally get 8,500 downloads. Yeah? You want to log into your Libsyn account and show me? Well, no, of course not. That's what I thought. So, like, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of people who do a lot of puffing and do a lot of, just pretend. And it's such a disservice, because they feel like they have to have these huge numbers right out of the gate. Well, you don't, because there are a lot of sponsors out there who are willing to write you checks or to come on your show and give you some free gear or whatever, especially gear. You just got to find the right ones that'll work with your show. But seriously, I always tell people, if you want to start a podcast and you want it to be really, really, really successful, you got to use car salesman mentality for the next 6 months. No joke.
How do you pump your numbers up?
A lot of it is consistency. You have to, in my opinion, to get your numbers at a higher level, you have to create content that nobody else is creating. And and this is just by trial and error, and this is no joke. Trust me, I've been in the podcasting industry for 10 years, which doesn't sound like a long time until you've been in it for 10 years, then it seems like forever. But if you're creating content that nobody else is creating, you're going to come up in Google searches better. You can't just throw your stuff out there on Libsyn and be like, oh, they'll find me. And I did this episode on how to create a mock scrape, just like the other 71 podcasts out there. I'm totally going to get all the downloads. Well, probably not.
Yeah.
Because you're not standing out from the crowd. So just do what everybody else isn't doing to make a big splash. That's what I think.
Yeah. In the beginning, it was like kind of like that, where it was just talking to an individual and being like, oh yeah, well, how did you get started? And, the stereotypical kind of interview kind of thing, and then as it started to progress, I was like, man, that's so fucking boring. I was like, I don't want to listen to it, so why would anybody else?
Right.
So then I was like, you know what? We're going to add some liquor, and we're we're just going to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And so I had one with my brother-in-law, and the first one, we did it in 2 volumes. The first episode or volume or whatever was like, it was a little more structured, a little more, and then, as the liquor started flowing, we just started freestyling, and it turned into like it morphed into like a good conversation and stuff like that. And it was like,
more Joe Rogan style.
Yeah.
Right?
And that was fun, and we threw in some of the hunting and fishing kind of stuff. But it made it fun. And I had a lot of people that were really like, dude, that was hilarious. But, I don't know. I think I overanalyze things myself. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh no, I need to really concentrate on this. And, well, if I look at the statistics here and, I need to push it here. And it's like, man, it's like so exhausting to, to figure that stuff out.
Oh yeah. The format of the podcast is super important. My show went through several different format changes, because I was just trying to find which one worked best for me. And you just have to figure out what your own personal format is, because if you're not having fun, it comes through. You know how they always say when you answer the phone, always answer with a smile, because it sounds like you're smiling. It's so true. So true. And me, I was trying, especially in the earlier days, I was trying to do that, I just want to provide educational content, which I did. I mean, I have some episodes out there, just the knowledge in these episodes just still blows my mind. I sometimes go back and listen to them myself, because, just calculating the rut and, stuff like that, but I love to travel, which is why it became hunt, fish, travel, and more of a focus on where to go, where to hunt, where to stay type of thing. Because there's lots of podcasts out there doing the how-to episodes, and they're doing it better than I was. I have no problem admitting that. I spend more time planning my hunt than actually hunting. So the travel aspect of it kind of tripped my trigger. And I come from the corporate world, so more of that corporate structural style just suits me better. It doesn't suit, like the Rut and River Pursuits guy they would just sound so stupid doing the same, structure that I do, because they're just a bunch of guys sitting around and chatting, and it's wonderful listening to them, so there's all these podcasts out there that they've found their own personal format, and it works for them, and it's enjoyable to listen to them because it works for them so well.
Absolutely. And I agree. You kind of have to find your own style, and it's got to be, I think it's just going to take a little while for anybody to, to be noticed,
Oh, sure.
I don't know. And then sometimes it feels like a futile exercise. It's like, God, you go through these lulls and stuff like that. And then it's like right before hunting season is just like, wham, you get hit.
Oh yeah, totally. But that's really the time you have to be capitalizing on turning those one-off listeners into subscribers. There are little things that people can do. I'm a big fan of email lists. I know people are like, oh, that's so 1994. And I'm like, really? That's funny because I have an 88% open rate on these 7,000 people that's on my email list. Trust me, I'm probably getting more views than your Facebook post unless you boost it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, like, you have to do what works for you, and you have to be everywhere. It really is like a full-time job if you want to. You got to hustle, and it's exhausting.
Oh, heck yeah, it is.
Pod fading is a real thing.
What is?
Pod fading is a real thing.
I've never heard that. That makes sense, though.
Yeah, where you just kind of pod fade.
Well, and I mean, the other thing is like the thing that I found through podcasting is you meet so many different people, and then you start joining these organizations and all that, and you meet all these different people. You get all these different opportunities and stuff like that, and it's really easy to kind of let the podcast kind of sit in the background, especially around hunting season.
Yeah.
Like you get so many opportunities to, hey, come on a hunt with me. Oh, come on this. And you have to maintain that. Okay, when I'm out on this hunt, we're going to do a podcast out in the field. And,
right.
You know, you have to be on top of it. And I think a lot of just listeners kind of take it for granted too, because I have had a lot of negative feedback too, where it's like, well, you know, you haven't come out with anything new in like 2 months. Well, first off, I had COVID. And then secondly, you know,
I know. I have a real life, FYI, and you're not paying for this. So.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like, you know, so it's like, you know, you have to stay so like mindful of all of it. And it does get exhausting, you know, but
it does.
You got to find fun in it. So what are your plans for your Bowcast podcast? Are you going to actually shoot like competition, or are you just using it for the hunting aspect, or?
No, just for the hunting aspect. So I'm very humbled and blown away at the amount of people who they have to be subscribers, because as soon as I'm only got like 4 or 5 episodes out there. I'm very humbled at the amount of people who've tuned in. I think a lot of people have a lot of brand recognition from 10 years ago. And I wanted to just bring it back to its original format, which was tech tips, technique, really, really technical stuff, not a lot of fluffy stuff, like really technical stuff. Because like I said, those episodes were so pivotal for me and my growth as an archer and a bow hunter that I felt the whole set took over. They all did a great job. They just had different styles, and you know, a new CEO always has a different vision for the company. But I felt like a lot of that technical knowledge got lost. I don't care how long you've been shooting competition, been a bow hunter, whatever, or just, you know, the weekend warrior. We all need a refresher every once in a while. I did that episode with Dave Cousins, and I'm like, oh, totally. I haven't even thought about doing it that way in like 8 years. You know, seriously. And some of these episodes I got coming up, like, I had like brain overload with some of them. I was like, I need to take notes because I can't even keep up with what you're saying. And I know this stuff, sort of, but you're making me feel dumb because there's so much knowledge that you're imparting and throwing at me, and I can't even absorb it all at once. You know, like, these guys are so smart when it comes to this really detailed technical archery knowledge. But that's the great part about a podcast, though, because then in a year you can go back and listen to that episode.
Absolutely.
Again.
I was about to say the same thing.
So I don't know that I am interested in shooting professionally at all. I don't think I would have enough willpower to keep up with it. Like, I'd be all gung-ho for the first couple of months, and then I'd be like, I really want to go fishing. So I don't think that aspect is really for me, but it's been good for me to just kind of revisit some of those techniques, get back into the exercises and the, you know, shooting in the backyard and stuff. And I do want to, I don't know, I've been thinking about different ways of promoting it. like farmers markets and stuff. I mean, everybody loves archery. Everybody, you know, or maybe selling some swag and stuff, or working with some of these archery shops and stuff. But like I said, it's all a full-time job when you really want to get the hustle on.
Yeah.
And we're coming up into bow season, so we'll see.
I was just on the phone actually before this podcast with a buddy of mine. He's like, you know what? Let's just quit our jobs and take a run at this full time. I'm like, yeah, sure, buddy. Let's. You gonna support me? But
right, because like now would be the worst time because everybody's on lockdown and sales are down everywhere, and it's really kind of a shame. But
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe now would be the best time because once everybody kind of gets back in the swing of things.
Well,
maybe you should do it.
Yeah, I guess there's two different ways to look at it. Everybody's consuming so much content online that might make it worth it, but at the same time, getting sponsors and all that kind of stuff is pretty rough right now.
Yeah.
You know, for the hunting aspect of things, it's been like really hard to, you know, we'll get these sponsors and stuff that are like, yeah, I'll send you some free gear. I'll send you a free outfit.
Oh yeah, I'm totally gear rich, money poor.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and by the way, with the added benefit that you can't sell it, you know?
Yeah, I know. I was just looking up let's see what the hunting industry revenue for 2019. So it's only, so overall hunting in the United States generates about $25 billion. I know it sounds like a lot of money. It's not. And especially when it comes to sponsorship, the hunting industry, in my opinion, is very small in comparison to the travel industry or, you know, the financial sector. It's very small. There's only so many dollars in the bucket. And there's like 5 million YouTubers out there all with their hands out. So, you know, so getting sponsors to actually write you a check, if you can do that, high five, because a lot of these, especially with COVID and everything shutting down and people getting laid off, a lot of people aren't purchasing the hunting gear that they would normally have budgeted for. A lot of these companies are tightening down their marketing purses. So
yeah,
it's a ridiculous world we live in this day.
Yeah, everybody's a Steven Spielberg of YouTube.
My show's gonna revolutionize the hunting industry. Oh, you gotta subscribe. You should just write me a check right now. Shut the F up, dude. I stand behind some of these guys at ATA, and I just want to like trip them as they walk by because I'm just like, you're so stupid. Get away from me. Oh my God.
Yeah, some of those people get a little bit nuts. But you know what? It takes people like that too. You know, it's like you gotta have those arrogant, crappy people. Just so people are like, oh, I don't freaking like that guy. I'm gonna go this way. You know,
right? I know this other guy stands out next to this Yahoo. Right? Seriously, no, you're absolutely right about that. No, I joke about those guys. I give anybody who has, especially like a YouTube channel, because like we were chatting about videos, a whole other animal that's definitely not in my forte. I give the people that spend that kind of time and do it at least relatively well with the editing and, you know, scoring the videos and stuff. I give them a lot of credit because it's very time consuming. People think that having a TV show, oh, you just go and hunt and you just film it and then you have your own TV show and you make a bunch of money. That's not really how it works, FYI. You know, it's so much time and effort. And in reality, when you break it down to like an hourly wage, most of these TV show guys are making like $4 an hour.
Oh, so I went on, I've been in a couple of videos now. So one for the NWTF and then one for the Mule Deer Foundation. And I had no idea that it was like this. Like, I mean, we're redoing shot after shot after shot for B-roll. And, you know, you're out there. It was with the Mule Deer Foundation video, it was like -20 almost. And I had like these really thin gloves and like I was not outfitted for the weather because I was told, I wasn't told that I could not wear my own gear. So I show up with my gear And the producer's like, yeah, you can't wear that. And I was like, if you'd have told me before I left home, I would have come with something else. But now I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm like a naked baby
You're
in
in
the
a
middle of a
pickle.
snowstorm, you know? Like, so he's like,
That's funny.
he gives me this stuff, and I got this like really thin jacket and really thin gloves and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, this is fucking miserable. And I'm like,
Yeah.
he's like, every time he's telling me, okay, well, turn around and walk back. Okay, turn around and walk back. Oh, no, you got to go a little bit to the right. Oh, a little bit to the left. And
Yeah.
I'm like cussing him in the back of my head. I was like, this was a cool experience until this,
I know.
you know, and like people don't see that kind of stuff. They don't see how hard it is to put all that stuff together, and the hours and hours and hours of B-roll and all that kind of stuff.
It's crazy. And then did you do any of the editing part of it? Because that's even, so you can shoot for 10 or 12 hours. You've got like 45 freaking hours of editing ahead of you.
Well, and then you've got the voiceover and the writing and stuff like that for actually what you want to say. And then depending on how you want the video to look, you might have been completely set with, you know, this B-roll, and then all of a sudden, nah, I don't really want to tell the story this way. So then you got to change it, and it's like, oh, it's so freaking exhausting.
I know. Yeah. I give people who can do that, like, especially as a full-time job, I give them a lot of credit, because I don't think everybody would hate me. Everybody would hate me. I'd be such a bitch all the time. I'd be so crabby, old and frustrated and annoyed with the world all the time. It's just not for me. You know, I literally do give people a lot of credit, because it is exhausting, hard work, and people have no idea how much goes into a 22-minute episode.
Oh man, it's hours of work. I mean, it's crazy.
Is that what your like aim, I guess, with your show? Is that kind of the direction that you're going in? Because you mentioned you guys were going to be filming in September. So is that the direction you're going to take your show?
So I'm starting a company with a few different people. Rocky Jacobson, Josh Fields, Kent Anderson. So there's going to be a bunch of people that are involved with it, and we're calling it Outdoor Wild Legacies. And our aim is to kind of bring it back and show people that, you know, people were getting it done before we had all the, not to bag on any certain camo or anything like that, but, you know, before we had the Gucci flage and before we had all these really nice bows and all that kind of stuff. And so our aim is to kind of show people that yeah, exactly. And I use it.
It's hilarious.
But our aim is to show people that, you know, you can still go out there in a JanSport backpack and, you know, flannel and all that kind of stuff and still get it done. It might not be as comfortable and, you know, all that kind of stuff, but at least that gets you started. And, you know, so we want to, our thought is that a lot of the gear companies, this is really going to win me sponsors, is that, that the different gear companies and stuff like that have kind of ostracized through marketing the guy that just, or the gal that just really wants to get into it, but they don't want to go and spend like $1,000 on a setup.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, or those people that their lifelong dream is to do a Western hunt or whatever, and they're like, well, that Western hunt is already costing me like, say, $4,000 for the guide, and then I've got to make sure that my bow or my rifle is set up, and then I've got to make sure that I got all the gear and all that kind of stuff. Oh, and by the way, you know, I've got to have a $500 backpack, and you know,
right.
And it's like
$800 bibs, and
yeah. And by the end of it, they're like, yeah, well, I'm going to take a mortgage out on my first hunt, you know, and so we think the gear companies kind of ostracized a lot of those people and really kind of put the barrier up for those people. So we want to show that kind of stuff. But one of the big things that we're doing with the videos is people like videos, right? They like to see all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be doing like some funny videos and stuff, you know, talking about different gear, different, you know, different stuff like that. And we call them the gear queers, you know, the guys that are like, oh, this is the best, and you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, they got to have all the latest and best gear, a new bow every year, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And so we're going to do funny little videos like making fun of that kind of thing, and just to make people feel more inclusive. And we're doing more like I've got a bunch of video episodes right now that with a couple different chefs where our focus is like purely wild game cooking. And so we're going to be, you know, wild game already has a big barrier, you know, for people eating it, you know, like you get guests over and stuff like that, and they're like, you know, I heard it's gamey, and I heard this, and I heard that, you know, where if it looks really nice, it's like it almost tricks their brain into, well, shit, I'd try that. It looks like something I find at a restaurant, you know?
Yeah.
And so I cook that way a lot for new people. If you've seen any of my pictures and stuff like that. So I'll cook that way a lot. And, you know, people are like, man, that looks so good. What is that? Oh, well, it's, you know, whitetail, or it's muley or antelope or whatever. So I've got a couple chefs that are going to be doing some episodes and stuff with me. And we've got different, like pitmaster style and then back home style cooking. And, you know, so we've got a bunch of different things that we're going to be doing just to really promote hunting and wild game and all that kind of stuff. So with the video podcast, it seems like, just from my experience, people tend to like video podcasts a little bit more. I'm still going to have the regular podcast where you just listen to it on, like, you know, your normal mediums or whatever, but still have it as a YouTube video or stuff too. So that's really where I'm going with it.
Gotcha.
Super long answer. So
yeah,
where can people find
really
you?
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds in theory like it's going to be a really cool thing.
I think it sounds really cool. I am definitely excited to be just, I don't know. I guess, I know you guys, so many people do so much stuff with the video, and people have asked for it. I do good with the podcasting. I do well with the people who listen to my show while they're running or driving to work or whatever. And I don't know, I guess that's where my niche is. But
yeah,
I know video and stuff, and a lot of people are really successful with it.
It is a pain in the butt, like you said. But we'll see how it goes. And if it goes well, then maybe I'll just hire a video editor because I suck at it.
Right.
But
funny. So
where can everybody find you?
The easiest place to go is just Carrie, Carrie Zylka, ZYLKA.com. And that goes to a page I have set up on my main website. It's got links to all my podcasts, social media platforms, and everything. You can always just search Carrie Zylka. You come up with a bunch of stuff too, but carriezylka.com is the best place to go.
Yeah.
Makes it easy.
Awesome. Well, by the way, I didn't say thank you for your service since you were a Navy vet.
It was an honor to serve. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, I got injured falling out of the chair in the chair force, you know, so.
Oh, that sucks.
No, not really. I didn't really fall out of the chair, but.
Oh, I was like, that sucks.
Yeah, we were in Afghanistan, and fell out of a chair. I was sitting at a desk. And
yeah, right.
No, it was a fun time in my life and stuff like that. But it was cool. I meant to ask you because we had brought this up during one of our chats. What are your thoughts about females in the outdoor industry and stuff like that?
This question always comes up because I'm a chick. You know what? So I'm of two minds of it because obviously I am a female and I'm not dumb when it comes to marketing, but I'm also not a whore. So there's that. I don't care. I don't care if you want to present yourself to be one. Good for you. More power to you. Do the fish bra shots. I don't care. Good for you. My listeners are probably not going to pay attention to you because they take me a little more seriously. My sponsors are like, here, have some money because you don't do the cleavage shots every other Instagram post. I don't, like I said, it depends on what you want out of the industry. If you want a 5-year career, because once you hit 30, you're probably going to be replaced with the next 25-year-old gun buddy, or do you want a 20-year career that ends up in a TV show or really big sponsors on a podcast or something?
Yeah.
You know, the blue pill or red pill, whatever.
The thing that I think that is, it's so hard, right? I think it's got to be pretty hard as a female, and not that. Let's see, how do I word this? So it's got to be hard as a female doing that kind of thing because, like, all of a sudden, as a female, it's like, oh, there's a chick with a gun. That's hot.
Yeah.
You know.
Or don't even get me started on a rant, but like it's much easier now. So in the beginning, 10 years ago, there were a lot of women who were like, I hate those chicks that run around with their boobs out and everything. And I'm like, who cares? And they're like, because when I go to a company and I'm asking them to write my, show or whatever, a check, they're not taking me seriously because there's a bunch of broads running around in the woods with bikini tops on. I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. I get that. Nowadays, I feel like that isn't really the case anymore. Women have established themselves in the outdoor industry as real hunters, true hunters, not just girls with boobs and hands out for free gear. I still, every once in a while, I'll get like where I'll call a new company that's never heard of me. And I'm like, hi, I'm Carrie from the Fish Travel Podcast. I'm, looking for marketing opportunities, blah, blah. Oh, I don't really play with little girls. Click.
Oh, shit.
Okay. Screw you too. Like, but, I really don't run into that as much as I used to anymore. More because people actually have a little bit of brand recognition and they know that the proof is in the pudding, that I'm actually serious about what I'm doing, and so I feel like nowadays it's not like it used to be by a long stretch. We still have a lot of those old timers, older guys who still think that women have no place in the woods or at deer camp. And that's fine. That's fine. I don't care if you have that. That's fine. I'll just go hunt by myself, whatever. But I don't care if you want to be a gun bunny or you want to be, a more serious hunter with a media presence. Just do something. Just get out there. That's my opinion.
Well, the hard part is, and I see this in myself, right? I'm a misogynistic male or whatever, and so I see this girl that looks pretty and all that kind of stuff, and she's out there hunting and she's got a grip and grin with this buck with all kinds of makeup on, and I'm like, was that a photo op or did she really do it? And then it like, in the back of my head, I really try not to be that way, because I've got some good girlfriends that get it done in the backcountry and, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I can't help but think that. And it's like, it takes a while for me to, look into them and all that kind of stuff and see, okay, well, is this chick, is she really the real deal? Or, And I hate that, because I know that if I'm thinking that way, there's a lot of other guys that are thinking that way. And, if we're trying, and then I've got 2 daughters myself, and I'm like, man, I don't want them to be caught in that kind of thing, where it's like, I want my daughters to be good hunters and ethical, all that kind of stuff, and be treated like that because they're ethical and all that kind of stuff, not because maybe they're good-looking girls with a grip and grin. You know what I mean?
Well, and not only that, so I get a lot of, I love my eyelashes. I don't care what anybody says, because it takes me 5 extra minutes in the morning to get up and put on some makeup. I mean, really, I wear makeup to the grocery store, to work, for podcasts. Why the hell wouldn't I wear it out in the woods? Like, well, the deer don't care if you're wearing makeup. No, but you know what? The photo that I'd like to take with this animal not looking like an effing trucker would be great. I'm just saying, I wear makeup all the time. Why would I all of a sudden, for some reason, not wear it when I go hunting? It makes no sense to me. I literally wear makeup all of the time. Why would I just be like, oh, I'm going hunting, so I guess I can't wear makeup? What? It doesn't even make any sense to me. I even wear it to the gym sometimes. Don't judge me. Like,
marketing opportunity, by the way. I think there's a marketing opportunity for it, because, if you had like the scent away makeup or whatever, scent away brand makeup.
I know. Oh my God, I'll tell you a funny story that I should probably never share on this earth, but I will anyway. 2 years ago, I am a total klutz in the woods. Like, my equipment takes a beating. And actually in South Dakota, through this thick brush, I had 3 arrows with me, and I lost 2 of them. And the third one, the fletching was hanging there really loose. And I'm like, we're going to put this eyelash glue to the test. And I'll be goddamned if that didn't work better. To this day, that arrow still has that blazer glued to it, and it has not come off. So all those guys out there were like, oh, why do you fuck? Whatever. Guess what saved my ass in the field? Seriously,
now that you say that, though, that shit's got to really fucking hurt when you go to take those eyelashes off.
Oh, it's really creepy looking, too. So all around the house, you'll just find, like, random eyelashes. They look like little centipedes all over the house. No, but seriously. And you know what? If you're going to be in the outdoor industry and you're a female, just know you're going to have to work twice as hard. Does it suck? Yeah. But you still got to do it if you want to. Just like in the IT industry, I had to work twice as hard as any of my males. I still get paid less. You know what? I still make a shit ton of money, and I have a really great career. I can't control what these guys are doing or what these guys are going to think of me. I don't care. I want to go hunt, and if I kill a monster buck, I want to look nice in the photo that's going to go up on my wall for the next 30 years, So, and screw you if you think that's stupid. That's my opinion.
Nothing wrong with that. Well,
I know. I will totally go on a rant. Don't let me.
Hey, I'm okay with it. Actually, that makes for good listening.
I know.
Because the snippet's going to be, fuck you, buddy.
Right? Seriously. I don't care. I do not care what you think of me when I'm out in the woods. I care what I think of me and what my damn camera thinks of me when I get that monster buck and I want to take a really nice photo and not look like a trucker. Sorry. Don't touch me.
And the caption says, Carrie Zylka acts like Cartman.
Right?
Whatever, I do what I want.
That's right. No, I really don't worry that much anymore about what everybody else thinks. I really don't, because I've been called every name in the book. I've been not taken seriously. I've had people share podcast episodes where guys will literally comment, oh, I was really interested in listening to it until I found out that the podcast host was a chick. No thanks. Well, screw you. Then I don't want your listens anyway. Thanks for the extra sort of download. Yeah. Seriously, like, I can't worry about what everybody else is thinking, because I just don't have time for it, because for every one jackass out there, there's 9 people who think you're awesome and are right there to prop you up rather than tear you down. And those are the people that matter anyway.
Yep,
so,
absolutely.
I'm going to get off my soapbox now.
I hear you. Well, how about let's leave it there?
All right.
All right.
Well,
thank you very much for
inviting me on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll have to thank Dan. It was a great conversation.
He's awesome. He's always forwarding me stuff to check into. He's a good guy.
Yep. Good deal. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And everybody go check out Carrie Zylka. Carrie Zylka on Facebook, right? And Instagram.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
And then go check out one of her million podcasts, Bowcast, Metal Chick, Hunt, Fish, Travel.
I know. And who knows? Next year I'll probably start a new one. I don't know. I start them and stop them all the time too. But
Awesome. Well, good deal. Thanks for talking.
Thank you again for inviting me on the show to chat with you. This has been a lot of fun. I don't normally get to do video.
Yeah, I know, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Primitive Republic Podcast, an Aaron Schmaus media production. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Primitive Republic. You can also find us on our website at www.archeryoutdoorsman.com.